Season 5, Episode 18 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. I'm Jonathan Lipscomb. To my left, it's Sam Fetterman. At least the way I'm pointing is left. And then below me, Kevin Fielder of Rivals for Kansas State. Kevin's got two with us tonight, so I hope you guys enjoy listening to him. We're going to start with K-State.
We apologize in advance.
Look, Sam, I just want to be clear. You were the one who offered to do this. So
you're welcome to leave, Sam. You're welcome
to
leave.
I know.
Kevin, king of the pub sub, how are you doing?
God, I tweeted this a few days ago. I desperately miss pub subs.
How you have a relationship there that I wish to have at Publix one day.
I walked into one of the grocery stores here. I think it was Hy-Vee. And I was like, do we do sandwiches or do I have to like make my own? Do I have to like actually like buy the ingredients to make sandwiches? It turns out I have to buy the ingredients to make sandwiches. And it's
that's how it works in 98% of the country.
Yes, but it's not as fun. It loses a lot of the appeal when I have to like actually make the sandwich.
I was going to get a sandwich from Wegmans yesterday, but the line was so long.
Does Wegmans do the deli like made to order, or is it like the pre-made ones that they just throw into like a container and you're like
they have made to order?
God, the dream.
All right. Well, speaking of Publix, K-State's NIL fund has been very public this offseason.
What a segue! What a segue!
That's going in the Hall of Fame of segues.
Yeah, I know.
This is why we called in the change, and you're the new host.
I've been thinking of one for like a minute and a half, and I'm glad that worked.
God, that was amazing.
They spent a ton of money this offseason to bring in a ton of transfers, and they tried to do a similar thing last year, but this season they're hoping not to lose their starting center and arguably best player, maybe second best player, in a bar fight where he's kicked off the team by not even the coach, the administration.
That would be a good idea. Yes, that would actually help Kansas.
Highly recommended to not have players get kicked off teams.
Yes, especially midseason. But Kevin, a lot better if it doesn't happen midseason.
Kevin, what's the overall feeling with this K-State roster comparing last year's to this year's?
I don't think it takes a lot to be like this year's roster is significantly more talented than last year's roster, right? Like I was talking with shout out Jason Conander, who covers Kansas State as well. I was talking with Jason today and I was like, I mean, guys, this year's team has a point guard. That's like significantly better than what last year's team had. Whatever you think about Tyler Perry, the basketball player, Tyler Perry's not a point guard. Tyler Perry's an off-ball guard who is short. And like, I don't know. I mean, they've got a point guard this year. They've actually got two who I think fans are generally excited for. So in terms of like overall excitement, man, this year's roster is an exciting one to project and sort of try and forecast because, I mean, they replaced like 10 players.
Yeah, so I guess we could start there. With the point guard spot, they bring in Doug McDaniel, who, had some problems last year at Michigan, both on and off the court. But I'm assuming the academic standards at Kansas State are going to be a little easier to meet than the ones at Michigan.
That's not saying much.
Not saying much, but we are saying that Doug McDaniel is hopefully going to play games this year without an academic suspension. And then behind him, you have David Castillo, who was a four-star freshman guy coming in, another small guard. That Jerome Tang really just loves these small guards. And so how do you think the tandem of McDaniel and Castillo will kind of work this year? And can Castillo find his way into this rotation?
Jerome Tang has talked incredibly highly about David Castillo throughout preseason. And when we had him for media availability, he was just fawning over David Castillo, the basketball player and the person, right? So to say, like, I think he will be in the
Jerome Tang press conference without him fawning over the people that he coaches.
Yes, Jerome Tang very good at this, much like Scott Drew at Baylor. But in terms of David Castillo,
yes, if they ever work together.
Yes, I think David Castillo makes the rotation. I think he's a day one rotation player for K-State, mainly because I don't know, he's probably their second best ball handler. They've got a few guys who can play point guard, but probably shouldn't be playing point guard at the Big 12 level. And I'm sure we'll get to those guys later. But David Castillo makes the rotation, and Doug McDaniel is like the perfect Jerome Tang point guard fit in the sense that he can score individually, and he's a very good scorer when he takes good shots, which is not all the time. Let's be 100% clear here.
Mhm.
But when he takes those shots that he can make, right, like he is an incredibly effective point guard. And he's a guy who is very similar to Marquise Noel. They are not the same player. Let's be abundantly clear. I think Marquise Noel was a better basketball player, but Doug McDaniel, incredibly talented. They have him for 2 years. Like, there's a lot to like about this point guard room. And again, to make the bar incredibly high, it is a lot better than last year, guys. they have a point guard, and that is enough, I think, for K-State.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I've watched David Castillo pretty extensively here. He was at Sunrise Christian. They were in UIBL Scholastic this year. And like for those of you that don't know, it's like, oh, I say Sunrise Christian, you think, oh, he probably played on a pretty good team. Nationally, yeah. Like within Scholastic, that team was not good. And so David Castillo wasn't exactly playing with like great players. And that is probably one of the reasons he was forcing up some bad shots, but the kid can be a microwave in games and put 30 on you sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, back to Doug McDaniel, though. I just remember thinking that at his best, when Doug McDaniel is playing at his best, it's not like Marquise Noel but it's adjacent.
Yes, best way to explain it.
You're looking at a dynamic scorer that can get to the basket despite a small frame. He's not the best finisher at the rim. His rim finishing numbers were not great, but he's crafty around the rim for sure when he needs to be. He's a good shooter, especially off the catch. He was 41% off the catch this past season. It's just that he had to do so much ball handling that he took so many off the dribble threes, and his mid-range game wasn't great. I think that they're probably not going to be asking him to do a ton in the mid-range with how many big bodies there are on this roster that will be taking up a lot of space in the mid-post and in the low post. McDaniel's probably going to be driving to the basket and shooting threes a lot more so than taking mid-range jump shots, I would think.
I think the thing about Doug McDaniel in this offense, right, is he is a worse passer and playmaker than Marquise Noel. I would argue, and Sam, you may have a different opinion here, I think he's a better scorer than Marquise Noel is. And that's really what this team needs above anything else, is they need a guy that can go out there and consistently score for them. Because the biggest issue last year, I think, for me, was that you had a lot of talented basketball players. Tyler Perry, Arthur Kluma are talented basketball players. Are they the best fits in what K-State wanted to do? Probably not. Tyler Perry a little bit more.
I thought they were going to be perfect fits.
Yeah, I mean, me too, right? Like, I thought Tyler Perry was going to be a great fit because, again, smaller guard who can score, who can play make a little bit. But I think there were like issues with last year's team, just roster construction wise, that I don't know if they're fully figured out with this year's roster. But Doug McDaniel in particular, I think he's a great scorer. I think it's really hard to judge the numbers off of last year's Michigan team for him because Juwan Howard had no idea how to run a college basketball offense. Juwan Howard ran, I had sort of messaged this once they added him. I don't remember where I messaged it. I basically said that Juwan Howard had no business running a college basketball offense because it was quite literally some of the worst basketball I've ever watched. From an offensive perspective,
you've not watched enough LIU Sharks ball.
Yes, I have watched approximately 0 LIU Sharks basketball.
Let's keep it that way.
But like, in terms
for the sake of your own good,
in terms of like high majors, man, I don't know if there were many teams that played as bad of overall stylistic basketball as Michigan did last year.
Yeah, man, they went 8-24.
And so like, it is incredibly difficult for me to judge Doug McDaniel off of last year's team because I feel like every player on that roster deserves a mulligan because, man, it was awful.
Yeah, and like the thing that people kind of don't realize before we move on to the wings here is, I mean, McDaniel pretty much doubled his scoring. His shooting numbers went up. His assist numbers went up. He did turn over a little more, but he was being asked to do a lot when he was out there. And the team was flat out bad. Yeah, I don't even think he played that bad. I think people focus a lot of their energy on the fact that the team was really bad. and the fact that he did get suspended.
Yes,
But
him getting
when
suspended.
He was
Michigan
out there.
was-
He was pretty good.
When Michigan was playing their best basketball early in the season, it was because Doug McDaniel was conducting an orchestra.
Yes, like
And
when
also
he
because
was
Olivier Camois and Will Cheddar were like 19 for 19 combined.
when Doug McDaniel was running the offense at a high level last year, Michigan looked like a competent basketball team. The issue was he got suspended. I don't know if he ever fully returned after that suspension. He probably was not in Juwan Howard's best graces after the suspension. So, like, the suspension sort of derailed everything. I don't know if he probably won't get suspended at K-State. And so, like, if he's on the court, he's a good fit for K-State. And they needed that at the point guard position. Above anything else they did in the offseason, they need to find a point guard who could play their offense and play the way that they needed a point guard to play in the offense.
All right, let's go on to some of these wings here because these are a lot of transfers.
There's a lot of them. There are so many of them.
I'll speak a lot of CJ Jones when we get to him, but I want to start with Brendan Housen. And the one thing that I have to say about Brendan Housen is he's a good player because, and I know, Sam, you can speak to this. UConn fans were putting Brendan Housen on the roster back in February, like 2 months before the season ended. So Kevin, and then we'll go Kevin and then Sam. But Kevin, what's the fit with Brendan Housen? Obviously an elite shooter, but is he going to be asked to do more than that?
No, I think they just need him to shoot the basketball and shoot it well.
There, you've said my piece.
Like, last year's team could not shoot the three ball consistently whatsoever. They did not have any players who could shoot the three ball, and the guys who could shoot the three ball were not doing it consistently. They need Brendan Housen to effectively be Duncan Robinson, with the Miami Heat for them. They need him to sit in the corner and hit a couple threes a game and be a productive player that way. If he can do more off of that, if he can, drive off of hard closeouts or play like decent defense, which, I mean, the film doesn't really show someone who's like a very good defender, but if he can play decent defense or score in other ways, that's an added benefit. But they need him to shoot. That's what he's there to do. And from a perspective of like adding a player whose only job it is to shoot the three ball, there aren't many better fits in college basketball than the guy who shot like 40%.
I've got trivia for you. How many rim attempts did Brendan Housen have last season?
Oh, I remember this. It was like 6, wasn't it? It was like really low.
3?
4.
Oh.
Yes, it was so low. And they were all like layups off of like hard closeouts, I think, if I remember correctly.
Here, I'm gonna watch them right now.
Oh, he's got synergy. This is Sam just flexing that he has synergy.
Let's see.
So, I guess while Sam is doing this, I'm going to move on here to CJ Jones, who is the UIC transfer.
Backdoor cut.
Great. Look, I just want to say that Sam watching Brendan Housen rim attempts is great podcast material.
Yeah,
because we can all see what he's watching.
We don't get this anywhere else.
Really nice cut off going from the wings to baseline.
Sam, no one can see
fast break, bounce pass, pull up 3, miss. Going the wait, what? That's not a rim attempt. That's a wing pull up fast break 3.
Might have
That is
been
not a
3
rim
attempts.
attempt. Synergy. What is going on?
It might have been 3.
So CJ Jones is one of like 3 or 4 players last year for UIC.
Fast break dunk.
Sam,
up by
let me
35
let me talk about a Valley transfer.
left.
Sam, let me talk about a Valley transfer. So CJ Jones is a guy who was pretty good on a team that wasn't so good last year. His numbers won't tell you he was super efficient, but he did shoot it really well from 3. He does pass it really well, and he can play a little point guard. So the whole kind of thing with UIC is like they fired their coach. They had 3 players transfer to high majors. So like maybe the firing was rightful. And how big of an impact does CJ Jones have on this team, Kevin?
It's so difficult to project a guy like CJ Jones in this team because I don't think he's the best fit next to Doug McDaniel. I think he's a better fit running the second unit, but they might have David Castillo to run the second unit. Yeah. So I think he's an off-ball guard for K-State. I think he's a guy who they're going to ask to sort of play with that high effort, that high energy, that high athleticism. And I think he's a decent fit. He's not like my favorite fit in terms of the transfers. I also don't think he's like the worst fit in terms of the transfers, but it's so hard to project a guy like him just because they've added so many guys like CJ Jones in terms of off-ball guards. And so I don't know who's starting where, but I would say that like from a perfect world, CJ Jones is best fit in that bench unit as I guess like the lead scorer, 6-man kind of guy. Not so much like I don't think he's going to put up double-digit points for K-State this year, but if he can play as that rotational 6-man guard, they may have something there.
Yeah, and then my other thing with him is like even if you do play him as sort of a backup point guard kind of guy, you go from a 6-foot guard in McDaniel to a 6'5" guard in Jones. Like that's tough to sort of find the right matchups and find a guy that can guard both that you want to consistently play.
Yeah, I think CJ Jones is an interesting piece because, as you mentioned, he's naturally an off-ball guard, but he did do a lot of ball handling at UIC. Good. Can manage the pick and roll, can get into the lane. He's good with 2 feet in the paint.
Yeah, like he is a lot better of a rim finisher for K-State. And if the goal is for him to try and get downhill, I think I love the fit, right? Because he gets downhill. That's the thing that he does. He's athletic and he gets downhill. And so that's sort of why I like him a little bit more in that second unit, whether it's as the point guard or as the 2 guard next to a guy like David Castillo who can be the traditional point guard. But I don't think anyone's complaining about having multiple players who can handle the ball and play point guard, right? Like, even if they're not perfect point guards, they have probably 4 or 5 guys who could play as point guards. And that's something they didn't have last year. And that'll help them, I guess, be a little bit more versatile on offense, which should benefit them long term.
So you take Jones, and then you take the other Jones, Max Jones from Cal State Fullerton. You know, K-State really just loaded up on guys that could shoot in their backcourt. Like
good
McDaniel, good shooter. Jones, good shooter. Other Jones, good shooter. And we talked about Castillo already. So what do you think of Max Jones? I'll start with Sam here as the mid-major kind of guru. Sam, Cal State Fullerton, not a team that I had my eye on a ton last year, but Max Jones was a 15-point-per-game guy on 38% from 3. Also did a little on the defensive end with almost 2 steals per game.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Max Jones, you're absolutely looking at a guy that is a shooting threat. Can really hit the shots from beyond the arc, and I think they're going to go to him in a lot of spots where they need to hit shots. And you mentioned it. This team is built around guards and wings that can shoot, and then just these big physical bruisers down low who can play in the paint, and I mean, obviously Hawkins can step out, Achor can step out, but those guys are known for their physicality and strength and their ability to play a lot down low or in different spots. And they will, as a team, K-State shoot the ball really well because they have so many guys that hit shots. Max Jones is another guy that, I mean, he was 40% on off the dribble threes last year, 39% on catch and shoot. He was one of the best shooters in that conference. He was on high volume, but a guy that 36% at the rim, just don't try and make him do a layup.
Yeah, like he just can't shoot layups. Like, just don't ask him to. I think that like
he shot higher on 3-pointers while guarded than layups.
He is my favorite basketball player of all time. I've seen enough. No, but like I was talking about this earlier, and I think I was effectively asked, like, what is the transfer I am most excited about? I said Max Jones because I think he is the perfect fit next to Doug McDaniel as a shooter, as a guy who does not need to be the point guard, who does not need the ball in his hands. There won't be like any rim finishing between the two, frankly, right? Like neither of them are great rim finishers, but Max Jones is a guy who scored against high major talent. Did against Nebraska, so like the bar is not very high.
And Nebraska top 3 defense over the last month of the regular season.
But like he scored, I think 25 or something points against Nebraska last season. Like this is a guy who played well against high majors. So when you're projecting a guy who can like carry that over to the Big 12 level, like there's no guarantee about it, but there's a lot of good fits. I think that I would say that if it was up to me and let's be clear, I'm not Jerome Tang. I do not get to make these rotation decisions. I would start Max Jones. I would have Max Jones as the starting guard next to Doug McDaniel, because I think that his shooting, his ability to play sometimes with the ball in his hands, his ability to do some of those other things fits really well in that starting unit, especially with some of the wings that they're going to have on that roster.
He's also probably a better defender than Brendan Hausen. CSU Fullerton was a defensive-oriented team. They ranked 130 spots higher in defense than they did in offense. Jones was one of the heads of that snake, and he had a nearly 4% steal rate, can really bother guys.
Yeah, like defensively too. Like I think there's probably a better fit there, and they're going to need someone who can defend in that backcourt, because Doug McDaniel
straight up can't.
Like going back to Doug McDaniel, he can't defend, especially on ball. Like he's not a good on ball defender whatsoever. He's not very good off ball either. He's not that better off ball either. But like, I feel a little bit comfortable with Max Jones being able to defend some of the Big 12 guards. Like he's going to get cooked by some of them. Like that's just going to happen. But I think that like there's a decent fit there, and I think that he's your best bet in terms of like finding a starting guard next to Doug McDaniel. I think I like him the most.
And I think this kind of just a lot of guards, not many of them great defenders, whole ordeal might be why K-State was so aggressive in going after big men in this offseason, especially a guy like Ugonna Onyenso, who is one of the best rim protectors in the country, and Coleman Hawkins, who can switch out and guard onto the perimeter, and Achor can do that as well.
Yeah, like I think that they had sort of realized that the guys that they were getting to play guard are probably not the best defenders. And so if you don't have good defenders in the backcourt, go get some front court guys who can defend their can we curse on this show, or is this like a show where you can't curse?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Go get guys who could defend their ass off, because there aren't many guys who could defend their ass off in the backcourt. And so like the front court should help hide some of those defensive issues. But I would be a little bit concerned when K-State has to play some of those better Big 12 guards, because I don't know if there's a guy on the roster who you trust defending those guys.
Yeah, so let's move on to the Jesus Christ, Logan.
No, Logan, I don't.
So let's move on here to sort of the bigger wings and the front court of this team, because these pieces are all very interesting in their own way.
That is a very good way to explain the Kansas State roster in general.
This was the point in the offseason where they just got to the fuck it, we have a lot of money, we're going to use it.
Yes. Once they got to adding front court wings, they were just like, man, wouldn't it be really funny if we just spent a lot of NIL money on these guys? And everyone was like, yes, let's do it.
No regard for like the fit whatsoever, but they just threw crap ton of money at a bunch
here's where I'm at. Achor, Coleman Hawkins, Ugonna Onyenso, and then you throw David and Gasson in with them, and then I guess you got a Baye follow and the Caleb Rich as well. But those first four guys I think are going to be the main four in this rotation, and they're all unique. They all have their own skill sets, and what I think people need to realize to an extent is that regardless of what Kansas State paid these guys, they are mostly still good players. Now, you can question the fit if you want, because,
we will absolutely question the fit. Let's be clear.
I'm looking at the Burnaball depth chart. Like, I get Coleman Hawkins as a name, and I get Coleman Hawkins got paid a lot of money. In no way, in no world, in no planet should he be starting over Achor.
He probably will be. Let's be clear.
They paid him $2 million. He's not coming off the bench.
They are not playing Coleman Hawkins as a sixth man with how much they paid him. Like, let's just be abundantly clear right now.
Also, Achor played 22 minutes a game last year.
But
great.
Also, like
that 22 minutes can be starting the game.
Hey, Jonathan. You want to know a really scary thought?
Sure.
I think there's a world where they try and play Achor and Coleman Hawkins together.
But is there a world where they play those two together and you got on
my rankings, Kevin?
Sam, probably not, but I would also love to see it. I know they play a couple of week games.
I would love to see it. I would not love to see it for the sake of Kansas State fans, though. I would just love to see it
Look,
Because-
they've got some pretty weak games to start the year, right? Like their non-conference schedule is not very challenging. There's a game where you could just play those three together and still probably win the game by 20.
20. If you play those three together against a random mid-major, you're winning by 70.
Which is exactly why they should do it. They struggled way too much against mid-majors last year.
Kansas State will be a favorite in every game until at least December 7th when they go to Queens to play
Ooh,
St.
wait.
John's.
We'll talk about their schedule in a minute.
But yeah, we'll get to that. But like you pay Coleman Hawkins a ton. Coleman Hawkins is a fine player. He was efficient on a really good offense. He can knock down the three, but I think there's still part of me that says like Coleman Hawkins is going to try to do too much with the money he's getting paid, and it could cost the team a game or two. Could cost them some possessions that are big. Core I like, but Sam, you mentioned he only plays like 22, 23 minutes a game. And then I like Agana Onyenso a lot. Like I think he was pretty underutilized. I mean, he's going to be a defensive anchor for this team in the front court. He's one of the best rim protectors in the country for my money. I have no idea why they took Baye Fall. Like I cannot.
They took him first.
I think Baye Fall is a guy that they're intentionally trying to develop because the talent is there, the upside is there. I just don't think he's figured it out yet.
Are we going to be saying this when he's a junior, that the talent
Yes.
is there, the upside is there, but he
Yes.
played 7 minutes a game over the last 2 seasons?
We'll be saying this in 3 years when he somehow is using a COVID year that he doesn't have and playing at, I don't know, UT Rio
UT
Grande.
Arlington.
Sam, we will be 7 years from now on this podcast discussing why Baye Fall didn't turn out and why he may just need a chance in the NBA with a team.
All right, back to the whole point. Coleman Hawkins has always been and will always be a wild card, like for better or for worse. He'll have stretches and parts and times in the game where he will take over the game. He'll hit his threes. He'll really defend well. He'll lock up. But then he'll have a lot of moments where he just looks like he has no idea what he's doing on the basketball court. He can shoot 1 for 7 from 3 and just kind of be all over the place in a bad way. If you get good Coleman Hawkins more than bad Coleman Hawkins, you're probably doing right. And I think that's what Illinois got last year for the most part.
Can I elaborate on what you said to start that sentence?
Yes.
To start that thought. Coleman Hawkins is not just a wild card. He is a plus role player that sometimes plays like a
bona fide
player.
superstar.
Thinks he's a
Sometimes
bona
plays
fide.
he is a plus role player that sometimes plays like a star player, but always thinks he's a star player.
Look,
Yeah, that's good. That's a really good way to put it.
Look, I am not going to front an NBA player or a college basketball player, and frankly, he will be drafted. I think so. A future NBA player for thinking he is the shit on a basketball team, whether he is or not. You know what? Have the confidence. If you won't believe in yourself, who will? That's the only question I have. No, but so like Coleman Hawkins is going to start for K-State. Like as we talked about, Coleman Hawkins will be the starter for K-State.
I don't know whether that's going to be at the 3, 4, or 5. But
That's the other problem is all these wings are probably 4s who probably are not effective 3s in college. So, ooh, man, good luck, buddy. They may have to go with 3 guards.
Yeah,
They may have to go.
Adora was a 5 at Samford.
Yeah, but that's a mid-major 5.
It's a unique system.
Yeah, it's a unique system and it's a mid-major. He can get away with doing that there.
Yeah, he's also awesome at
But
basketball.
we could also acknowledge that Jerome Tang now in year 3 just plays a unique style on a unique roster. Like,
Yes,
2 years ago he was playing a 5'6" point guard. It worked.
I think that if I'm trying to hear on August 25th at 9:14 Central Time, try and project the depth chart, I think it's more likely they go with 3 guards. And I don't know who those 3 guards are, but I feel like there's a better shot that they try and do 3 guards and Hawkins and Onyenso than try and do the Buddy Rich, Hawkins, Onyenso, or Hawkins and Gasson. And I just you look at that roster, there aren't a lot of guys who can play the 3. So you almost have to go 3 guards, which is fine. A lot of teams just run 3 guards nowadays, but I don't know if they've got the guards to run 3 guards. And that's my biggest question mark with this
I-
roster.
I think it
just
could be
wanna go
okay as
back
long as
to-
they're playing on Yenso with them.
I just want to go back to Achor. This is the guy who was the best player on a team that should have won an NCAA tournament game. I think back to that Western Carolina game. They come in 15-2. Western Carolina comes in 15-2. They're both 4-0 in the SoCon. It's on the road, and he's just hitting threes out of the gate. He's dominating the low post. He finishes with 35-10. Like, I don't think enough people are talking about Achor. That's my piece. Like, this guy is.
He felt like he
legit-
went under recruited, and I know that there were some like academic concerns there, but like he felt like he went under recruited out of the
Not even just under recruited, just under talked about. Like, he gets buried in like discussions about this K-State team. There's a world where he is maybe not the best player, but the second best player on this team.
Yeah, we got people out here rating Coleman Hawkins as the best transfer of the offseason. He's not even the best transfer in his team.
Okay, that's
He
because
might not
Coleman
even be the
Hawkins.
second best.
Jonathan, you are just obsessing way too much about people going for name on this. Coleman Hawkins is the biggest name.
This is a long time. Like, I've never been.
I am aware of your Coleman Hawkins hatred. I am aware of this.
Like,
but
all the games he doesn't shoot well, and he shoots them out of games they lose.
All right,
someone's got to.
Let's move on. Let's get to Onyenso.
Yeah, I mean, I speak very positively on Onyenso. This is where I come around. I guess like I'll start here. I mean, as long as he's able to play more than he did at Kentucky last year, and I get like there were injury problems and there have been, but like his block rate was 15%. That's absurd.
His block
So
rate
good.
was almost double his shot rate.
So, I mean, if he's conditioned to play 25 plus minutes, I mean, this is going to be one of the best rim protecting teams in the country.
I don't think he. I don't. Go ahead, Sam.
If you play him 25 minutes, you are getting 25 minutes of playing 4-on-5 on offense.
That's true.
Like,
Okay, but K-State, like, look at the roster. K-State can afford to play 4-on-5 on offense. They have enough scorers to play 4-on-5 on offense.
Yes,
for 25 minutes.
but I don't think that's sustainable to play 25 minutes of 4-on-5 on offense for really any team.
This is also why I think that it
Like,
was so.
Kentucky couldn't afford to do that last year.
Yeah, John Calipari found a way to lose in the NCAA tournament. We're all shocked by this, guys. We're all trying to figure out how he did it again.
No. I'm saying like he played 33%. He played 50% of the minutes in conference play, so a little bit under 20 minutes a game.
Yeah, I mean, look,
and
like
they were like the number one offense in the country. They couldn't even afford number 7 offense in the country, and they couldn't even afford to play him 25 minutes a game.
this is why I think it was so important that David N'Guessan came back, right? Because N'Guessan is a very good basketball player. He's not going to do a lot in terms of stuffing the stat sheet, but he plays his role incredibly well. And he is a player who can take those other 20 minutes or whatever away from Onyenso. So you're not having 4-on-5 for 25 minutes a game. Like the biggest offseason move for them might have been N'Guessan coming back because he is the exact thing that they need next to Onyenso in terms of being able to take those minutes away. Maybe there's some small ball lineups in there with like Hawkins at the 5 or a core at the 5. Like, I don't know. There probably will be, but like in terms of having,
they have enough. They there's a scenario where like if the Joneses both hit, there's like a situation where you could go McDaniel, Hazen, Jones, Hawkins, McDaniel, Hazen, Jones, Achor. I think Kansas State might have more lineup combinations 2 through 5 than maybe any other high major team. Or that's probably not true, but they have a lot of potential lineup combinations.
Yeah, the only risk is that, again, and this is like the problem with bringing in 10 transfers or whatever they brought in officially. 9 transfers and a true freshman is no one knows how many of these guys hit. And so like they have all these potential lineups. They may not all hit, and they probably won't all hit if we're being brutally honest. But like the versatility is there, but also just having 2 big men who are reliable basketball players. We know what Onyenso is defensively and offensively. And David N'Guessan is a very reliable basketball player. I think it's probably the best way to say what he is.
He is a Big 12 basketball player.
Yeah, and like they don't need a guy who's anything more than a Big 12 basketball player. They don't need another guy who can be the star of a basketball team. They've got about 5 of those guys already. They need a guy who can be a reliable basketball player and play 15 plus minutes a game. And I think N'Guessan is that.
I'd also think that he should probably just have been locked in a gym shooting free throws all summer.
Well, he was too busy on international duty with Team Netherlands. So maybe he was. Maybe he was.
But 42% is not going to cut it.
Okay, what are you, the free throw police?
Look.
Free throws are free.
I usually don't go over this with guys, but like 42% is.
Yeah, I mean, the free throw
bordering on Willie Cauley-Stein bad.
For a guy who gets to the line as much as he does, 51% free throw rate, to shoot that poorly from the line, like, what are you even going to the line for? What are you even trying to get fouled for?
I can't believe we just brought up Willie Cauley-Stein on an episode about Kansas State basketball. That's incredible.
All right.
Willie Cauley-Stein in college, I swear, shot like 38% from the free throw line.
Do we not want to talk about Willie Cauley-Stein for the next 20 minutes? Because I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Let's go to this. This non-con is quite frankly a joke. I mean, like you play a couple bye games, then you play LSU at home, who I don't think LSU is any good, but like maybe I'm wrong. Then you play one more bye game. By the way, your bye games are all going to be against teams that are like below 250 in Ken Palm and probably worse.
Whoa, that's Arkansas,
like,
Pine Bluff, and Mississippi Valley State.
I mean, I don't think
what's going on here. What is this MTE? Oh my God!
I don't think Paradise Jam is like a super bad tournament, but like for K-State it is.
I think they went there because it's in St. Thomas, and some of the staff has ties to St. Thomas. If we're being honest,
like they better win those first two because they aren't going to get a good game until the championship at least. They might not get a good game, period, if those teams that we think are good don't turn out to be good.
Fine.
I think UAB's in that tournament, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, so
Nice and UAB are legit good.
But they won't.
You might not get to play them.
No high major with legit at-large aspirations should be in a tournament where an 8-team tournament where they're playing 3 games and maybe you get one of McNeese or UAB.
Yeah, like, and the other thing was that, like, the biggest discussion point after the season ended, and I don't know if you guys were, I guess, looped in on this, was that Jerome Tang had admitted that they needed to schedule better non-conference. And then it's like the year where you have an opportunity to schedule better non-conference, you're like, yeah, you know what? We're not going to do that. It's like, they needed better non-conference games last year. That's part of the reason why they weren't in the NCAA tournament. Now, they also like weren't good, but also like that's a part of the reason why they weren't in the NCAA tournament. And they followed that up by like scheduling a whole bunch of just teams and St. John's. Like, I don't like it.
Playing 3 teams that were 330 or worse in Ken Palm last year is never a good idea.
Like, I don't know how good Drake is. Maybe they're fine.
They'll be fine. They're not like
they'll be well coached. That's about all I can say.
Top 175, top 150 in Ken Palm, if I had to guess.
There are no. How many quad 2 games do we think is on there? Quad 2 is not a very hard.
Wichita State away could be quad 2.
How many of their non-conference games do we think are quad 2 games? 2? Maybe 3 if they get to play UAB or McNeese.
UAB or McNeese neutral, like, has an outside shot of becoming quad 1.
Mm-hmm.
St. John's is going to be quad 2.
St. John's will definitely.
St. John's away is quad 1.
You have Wichita State that might be. Drake that probably won't be, but might be. Like, just like
Drake on a neutral is not going to be quad 2.
You pretty much need to.
Drake's not going to be a top 100 team.
Like, they need to be a really good conference team if they want to make the NCAA tournament because
they can't afford to lose.
They can't afford to lose, and they probably can't afford to win ugly in a lot of these games. Like, it's just like not the good. It's not a very ideal.
It's not even like a quote unquote Iowa State model where there's just like a lot of really bad bye games. It's like just they're playing mediocre teams in like neutral sites.
Yeah, even their non-bye games are not good games. Like they don't even have a game where it's like, man, they're
And by
playing.
the way, I made air quotes around Iowa State model because I think that whole discussion is absolute BS.
It works for them.
Discussion
So,
ever.
like, I also get the idea that, like, yeah, man, the Big 12 is going to be good enough where you could effectively make an at-large bid just by being in the Big 12 and winning enough of those games. But do you want to put yourself in a situation where we're heading into the Big 12 tournament, talking about how they need to win a game or two to be to be an at-large team in the NCAA tournament? Because that does not feel like an ideal situation for a team like K-State after what happened last year.
Yeah. Like, and the thing is, like, even if you play even with the Big 12 schedule, even with the toughness and the grind of that league, you have to still win enough games. Like,
yeah,
you can't be sitting around at 17 wins and make the NCAA tournament.
You can't be mediocre in the conference. You have not afforded yourself an opportunity to be mediocre in the conference and still make the NCAA tournament.
All right, Kevin, any final thoughts before we get out of here and move on to our second preview with you?
Wow, I still have to do this. I've been like, I don't
not want to.
No, I want to. I'm just saying. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. I am currently doing a fantasy football draft while this during this episode.
Yeah,
so if you see me looking at my other monitor, I have one right next to me. It's because I'm up to draft right now and I need to draft someone.
If you came to hear about,
we're drafting Tua. We drafted Tua, baby. Let's go.
All that drama to take Tua.
And Willie Cauley-Stein, you came to the right place.
So
and if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This is season 5, episode 18.
Can I just finish this off real quick with saying that like K-State's going to be a fine basketball team, but I have so many question marks about how this team is assembled currently.
And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This is season 5, episode 18 of Practice Bubbles and Bit Stealers, the Kansas State preview with the multitasking Kevin Fielder. We'll be back in about 10 minutes with FAU.